Okay, after first class of state and local tax, let's talk a little bit about some of the highlights of what we learned. First of all, we learned that there are many different types of state taxes, many, and they are all the states are different. There's probably, just like there's no one snowflake that looks alike, there is no state or District of Columbia tax system that is alike in the United States. So we've got 51, if you don't count the territories of Puerto Rico and so forth, you've got 51 different types of tax laws at the state and local level. So there's lots of confusion out there. Then we learned that by and large, the taxes that are the most substantive amounts are indirect tax, which makes them regressive. If you didn't follow what I just said, you need to look up these terms because that was an important topic in today's lecture, that many of the taxes at the state level are, and they're the largest ones as far as revenue, they're indirect, which makes them regressive. We then started talking about the Constitution of the United States because it's going to have a big interplay between what the states can do when it comes to interstate commerce taxation and what they cannot do. And that's why we're learning about the Constitution. So let's just take a look at some of the actual wording of the Constitution that we spoke about today. This one is particularly interesting because this is what's known as the elastic clause. Like a rubber band can bend, this gives the Congress the ability to bend the laws for the purpose of carrying out what they need to carry out. And they need to be necessary and proper. The laws that they make have to be necessary and proper so they can carry out all the powers invested in them by the Constitution. So that's the elastic clause. And then we had the, cool, the supremacy clause. This is really cool. I like this because I want to be king. That's the, you might want to call this the king clause. It says that when it comes to whose law will prevail in the event of, say, a dispute, or who should have the final authority, the Constitution said that the supreme law of the land shall be the United States government. And we talked about how that plays into with, as an example, human resource laws, like we gave the example of minimum wage. And that was a pretty cool example of how this interplay between state law versus the federal law, which is what we're talking about. And remember, state law versus federal law is the federalism that we are discussing through the Constitution. And what do you do if the minimum wage is different between the state versus the federal? And that happens a lot. Let's see what we got here. Another part of the Constitution. These are, again, this is the actual language from it. This is from the 10th Amendment, and it is really cool because this is a clause that says what it's not. The powers not delegated to the U.S. are reserved to the states. So if it ain't, pardon the word that doesn't exist, if it ain't in the Constitution, if the power is not in the Constitution given to the federal government, then it goes to the state. Goes to the state. And that's the 10th Amendment. We got into that today, and we're going to get into all these things even more as we go along. These are the powers. I'm not going to go through these. I wanted you to see them. These are the powers in the Constitution that are given to the U.S. government. These are what are known as the delegated powers, because the Constitution says they belong to the U.S. government. And one of the cool things is they get to run the post office. If you ever wondered why it's the U.S. Post Office, it was created by the Constitution. Let's see what else. We learned about how it affects some of the things that the state does. And that's going to be some of the other things. Remember, whatever is not delegated to the federal government belongs to the states, because, as per the 10th Amendment, which we just saw. So you can go through this and see some of the things that they can borrow. Here, lots of laws, even another one here. And you can read through these, and you can Wikipedia as well, where I got this. and see all the powers that belong to the federal government. Okay, that's it for now. When it comes to our beginning look-see into the Constitution, we've got some very interesting parts to go, particularly being the Interstate Commerce Clause, as it's going to be called, and I'll see you tomorrow.